All right, we want to start off by saying and giving all praises to
Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Kakadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders, the GMS who rule well. Honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect and are out there teaching the word of sincerity and truth. We say shalom to all of you. All right, so back with another GMS Boston field trip. We are at the Crispus Attucks monument over here. So just a little bit about this monument. This is, I guess, to commemorate what is known today as the Boston Massacre. Right. This was March 5th, 1770. This day and its events kicked off what is now known as the American Revolutionary War, when America fought for its independence to separate itself from Britain, which is very scriptural. This is a big part of scripture, right? The fact that America separated itself from Britain, right? Because when you read in what is that, Revelation 17, where it says the whore that sitteth on the beast. Somebody get that? Somebody got it?
I got Jeremiah.
Go ahead, read Jeremiah for me.
Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 12.
Yep.
Your mother shall be sore confounded.
Yep.
She that bear you shall be ashamed.
Right, your mother, right? Read that again for me.
Your mother shall be sore confounded.
Yep.
She that bear you shall be ashamed.
Right, so who bear this place? Who bore this place but Britain, right? Which is, again, that's a big part of prophecy. Britain being one of the three that little horn came out of when you read in Daniel's 7th chapter, right? So it's this event, right? This small skirmish of, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6 people that died, right? Created a whole war that allowed so-called America to separate itself from Britain, right? You got some more on that, yep. Jeremiah?
Jeremiah 50, verse 12.
Yep.
Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bear you shall be ashamed.
Yep.
Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness,
right,
and a dry and a desert.
Right, the hindermost of the nations, right, which is America, right? Why? Because it's hindermost away from what was known as the known world at the time, right? The Eastern Hemisphere, if you will, right, was known to all the world. The continent of Africa was explored, right? As far as the Indies and in Asia, the easternmost parts of Asia was explored by Alexander. So those worlds were known. Those areas were known. This being the hindermost part, because you had to cross all the way over the Atlantic Ocean to get to this side of the world.
Hey, add real quick, that's why they called it the New World. And it's also spiritual, because when you go into Jacob being Esau being the end of the world and Jacob being the beginning of it that followed, it was symbolic of them coming back into power and establishing their rulership.
Yep.
I'm just finished. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 13.
Yep.
Because the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate.
Right.
Everyone that go by Babylon shall be astonished and shall hiss at her praise.
Which is in line with Isaiah the 34th chapter. And with Malachi, somebody get Malachi, where it says, "I shall rebuild the desolate places," because this is that place, man. This is the place that was bare. No one was here. No one inhabited this place. Esau came here, right, and destroyed it, wiped the people out that were here, and built it up to what you see today. And that was this scene was a big part of that, man. This event was a big part of that. Go ahead.
Malachi 1 verse 4.
Yeah.
Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished,
Yeah.
but we will return and build the desolate places.
Yep.
Thus said the Lord of hosts, they shall build without throw down,
Yep.
and they shall call them the board of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord
Right.
had indignation
So
forever.
like the scripture says, they shall build it, but I will throw it down, right? And
Yep.
just like read that last part in Jeremiah 50 and 12 again. That last part.
Yep. Jeremiah chapter 14.
Okay.
Slakia. It was 13. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 13. It says, everyone that goes by Babylon shall be astonished and shall hiss at her.
Yep.
Oh, you wanted the desolate part?
Yeah. You can start
at the top.
Yep.
Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited.
Right. See, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. Right. So once once this place is wiped out and destroyed, you're not gonna have, little cities being set up here. This place is gonna be a heap of dirt for a memorial, as it says in Isaiah 34th chapter. Go ahead, keep going.
Just real quick, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse. I'll start at 11.
Yep.
And start at 12.
Yep.
Right to the point. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings,
Yep.
which have received no kingdom, but they shall receive power as kings with the beast.
Yep.
And these have one mind, and shall give their power and their strength to the beast.
Yep.
Like here. Verse. I'm gonna jump down to 16.
Yep.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and
Right.
shall make her desolate.
Right, and here's that whore, man. Now, if you pan up a little bit, this is why you always have, whenever you see these monuments, like last week we had a monument with a woman on it as well, right? But when you see these monuments of women, this is symbolic of America, man. Her breaking the chain from Britain, right? You see the chain in her hand. If you look underneath here, under her right foot, she's stepping on a crown. She's smashing a crown, right? And then, lo and behold, their famous bird, the eagle, right?
Let me get that.
Yep.
Obadiah 1 and 4.
Yep.
Though thou exalt themselves as the eagle,
Yep.
and thou set thy nest among the stars.
Yep.
Thence will I bring thee down,
Right.
saith
So
the Lord.
this is them exalting themselves. This is big, man, because this was America setting itself up as a power. Because leading up to this point, America was just a province of Britain, right? So this was them setting up themselves to say, no, we're a power too. We're our own sovereign nation, and we want to be separate from Britain, right? And they did that, man. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, they did that, man. You got something?
Yep. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore,
Yep.
and shall make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh and burn her with
Right.
fire.
And this is happening, man. When you listen to your current events and your news, you starting to see, because America, even though they're a part of NATO and the EU, which is that beast, right? America is on some, because of Trump, America first type behavior, right? So that's going to cause the other nations that are eating off of this place, which when you go into Revelations 18, it talks about that. These other nations that are eating off this place is going to make them hate them. Because, oh, you fucking up the money now. You know, you like when your bottom bitch leaves the pimp. If you listen to that story that Dave Chappelle told on that Equanimity special, he told a story about how Iceberg Slim had kind of churned out an extra few years out of his bottom bitch because he tricked her. But when you losing your bottom bitch, you losing money, man, and that's why they're gonna hate the whore. Because America's trying to do their own thing. They're trying to be sovereign, separate from EU.
Before you read it, let me read this. Now, I don't know if you was going to get to it.
Yep.
Was you going to get to this?
Probably not, but I'm
All right.
glad you pointed
So what
it
it
out.
says up here, it says, from that moment,
Yep.
we may date the severance of the British Empire. Daniel Webster. Okay. So from that date, that goes back to when the brother read that their mothership be so confounded. That barely. Okay, because America, like the brothers are saying, have been born out of the British Empire. Okay, now that they've come over to this side, which you would call the New World, so-called New World Order, now they're looking for that independence, and this is what we're talking about. The whole independence from the British realm, or the British clutches, if you will. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead with that scripture right there.
This
brother.
is Matthew 12 and 26. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself.
Right. If Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. Go ahead.
How shall then his kingdom stand?
How shall his kingdom stand, man? How can your kingdom stand if the people that are supposed to be together are separated? Matter of fact, somebody find for me in James, I think it's the 2nd chapter, where it talks about the 10 toes that are watch out, you guys, spread out. Where it talks about the 10 toes, part of iron and miry clay. Somebody give me that, because this is a big part of that, man. This is a big part of that separation. People, when we talk about modern terms and we talk about America, people think that America is not written in biblical prophecy. How could a nation so significant and be so large and be so influential in its existence not be a part of biblical prophecy when all the other nations that were as large and as powerful are written in Scripture? You know? Keep going.
This is real quick.
Yep.
This is Jeremiah 50:23. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken?"
Right. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Conquering and taking lands. What was that book we read, bro? We talked about that secret agent that he was kind of hired to. What's the name of that book there?
Forgot it.
I forget the name of that book, but when I find it, I'll speak about it again. But basically, this guy was hired as what they do, what America has done over time. They go into these different lands with that guy and with guys like him.
Economic
hitman. Thank you, brother. And what he would do was he would go in and try to tell these people, like, look, we can make your country we can bring your country into modern times, into the industrial age. You just got to let us do this thing on the back end. And if that country or that leader wasn't willing to do that, what did they do next? They came in with the CIA or the military, if you will, and destroyed that person, put their person in power, and then America now takes over that country and that land. People think, like, you'll say things like you'll have your arguments at work in the cubicles, right? Yep. And you'll have your little discussions in work, and you say that these third world countries are third world countries because of America. Oh no, that's because of their corrupt leaders. Yeah, but yes, it's because of their corrupt leaders, but they got their hands in America's pot, man. You know,
the recent one is Venezuela.
Venezuela, right? So they'll say that America doesn't have anything to do with it, but if you go to the grocery store, your avocados come from another country, your apples come from another country, your lemons and limes come from another country.
Was it Sicko gas?
Gas comes from another country. Yep. Right here it is. Trump brags and boasts of being the #1 oil producer in the world today, which is true. But we get our oil. Most of our oil we use and consume is from other places.
Foreign.
You see? Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, this is Revelations 18, and start at verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power. Yep. And the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and become the habitation of the devil.
So in order for this to happen, you had to have that little horn be set up and have its own sovereignty, to be its own nation, to be its own power. And this is the start of that.
Hey, Khan, if I could add too real quick, because I'm gonna go back to Revelation 17, because when it goes into Babylon the Great is fallen, is because of the events that was laid out in Revelation the 17th chapter, which was, I'll read it. Revelation, I didn't get a chance to finish it. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. That I'll read down to 18. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, to agree to give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of the Most High be fulfilled."
Right. So that's that last final war, that hot war.
Yep.
That's gonna happen, man.
Yep.
Go ahead.
"And the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth."
Right. And there's that woman, man. That great city. You see?
I got that down.
And these things, there had to have been events that led up to that. Right. America had to exist in order for those prophecies to come to pass, man. So this, even though it gets lost in history, right? When you read about Crispus Attucks, right? He's lost in history. Some people say some things about these things about him. Some people say these other things about him. But this is significant. These acts, this day, this so-called massacre, this Boston Massacre, was significant to world history, the grand scheme of prophecy.
Right.
Because there had to have been in America.
And John Adams said it. He said, on that night, the foundation of Americans' independence was laid.
Which John Adams, a sneaky son of a gun, because he defended the British soldiers that killed Crispus Attucks, right? And now he's toting the American independence.
Right.
He was a fence straddler, if you will. You know.
Benjamin Franklin as well.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin was another one. Who was another one flying back and forth, flying back and forth on the airplane. Right. He was another one going back and forth across the Atlantic, reporting. So I was listening to, who was I listening to? I was listening to a podcast with this guy, Nick Cannon, called Nick Cannon's class, or something like that. And Irv Gotti was on there. And he was talking about CIs and CWs, right? Which is your confidential informants or your confidential witnesses, right? And he said that confidential informants are those who you don't know who they are. You'll feel like they're with you, but they work for the government, right, or the CIA or the FBI or whatever, right? Which Benjamin Franklin was, because we herald him as this one of the founding fathers of the United States, but he on a regular basis was going back to Britain telling them what was going on over here, right? So that's a real thing, man. That's a real thing. So what else we got?
You call for some Daniel. You still want that?
Yeah, please give me that.
Okay, this is second Daniel. Daniel chapter 2, verse 41.
Second Daniel. One of them.
And he says, you want me to start verse 40?
Start wherever that starts to talk about the
40. And he says, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, and as iron that break all these shall it break in pieces and bruise.
Yep.
And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of the potter's clay,
right,
and part of iron.
Right. So the toes symbolize how they be together but separate. Right. If you look at toes or any of your phalanges, they're together on the same unit, but they're separate. Right. Which is what this whole thing is, man. When we read in Revelation 17 where it says those 10 toes. Those 10 horns shall hate the whore. That's what it's talking about, man. You know, go ahead.
And he said the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron.
Right.
For as much.
So it's divided, right? They all have a difference of opinion, but what holds them together is that new world order, that hope for the new world order, that the power behind the new world order. Go ahead.
For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay.
Yep.
And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken.
That's right, partly strong and partly broken, because they would be against each other, right? And it's happening, man. If you don't know that, then you didn't pay attention. That's why it's beautiful that you got brothers there's some brothers in Israel that really get into those current events, man. And you gotta find them and you gotta watch them. Namely, I can think of the Elder Ariala with the algorithm shows that he does. Yeah. Watch those shows, man. Watch those shows. I Any brother that gets into these current events and linking them with prophecy, you gotta watch those, because they'll give you context to the things that you read. Sometimes you don't have that spiritual context because you just reading the words off the page, but watching those brothers' videos gives you a perspective on it, man. You know.
I got an article.
Go ahead.
This is from the. It's not given thing. South China Morning Post.
Okay.
All right, and it says EU leaders around on U.S. President Donald Trump's over trade as 10th G7 summit gets underway. All right, and the U.S. president blew up last year's summit by engaging in a bitter row with Canada's prime minister and refusing to sign a trade joint declaration. His administration now stands even further apart from its key allies on a number of issues.
So America is being a rebellious woman, man. I don't have to listen to you. That one. You ain't my father. That's what America's being. You know. Go ahead.
Yep. European leaders rounded on the U.S. President Donald Trump over the trade threats on Saturday at the G7 summit in France, marred by the transatlantic tension and worries about the global economy. The heads of the visiting G7 countries, Britain, Canada, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States, were all smiles at the Swinkies welcome dinner hosted by the French President Emmanuel Macron on a clifftop overlooking the suffering paradise of Blitra. Fine French wines and champagne were served along with dinner, including the fish buffet tuna. But once the evening ended, the leaders faced two tensely and tricky days of the summit, overshadowed by Trump's trade war talk even before it started. So they're just going into.
Go ahead, speak on it.
Yep, no, just going into how the Lord put Trump into office, basically to stir the pot concerning that hatred that they have, and going to how the European Unions aren't doing their part, going into what the scriptures that you read, if Satan be divided up against Satan, because from the beginning they wanted a republic, and then they wanted to be allies with the British and allies with the Europeans, because it was a nationality thing. It was a so-called white versus the world type thing. But as you see these splits, Now you got the Scottish wanting to leave United Kingdom because the United Kingdom wanting to leave the EU.
Brexit,
You had the Brexit and Trump antagonizing that, and Merkelism wanting to be away from, shy away from the EU and shy away from NATO, and saying putting in money to help the Ukraine. So it's creating this big riffraff that's going to lead to what? Lead to this Third World War and them ultimately destroying this place.
That's right. And for those of you who think that Trump is going to get impeached, keep dreaming, man. Because his actions are pushing forth prophecy, man. There's a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is prophecy has to be fulfilled. Prophecy has to be fulfilled, and Trump is the one clearly who's pushing prophecy forth through the spirit of the Lord, of course.
You have to be. What should I say? You have to understand that Trump, as a president, has lost more votes. When I say lost more votes, he was president with a minority rather than a majority of the votes.
So he lost the election.
He lost the election. The
popular vote. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now this is Psalm 7 and 15. He made a pit and digged it, and it's fallen into the ditch which he made.
That's it. He's digging himself into a grave, man. So going back, we've said a lot. You got something?
Yeah, let's put one last cracker that was a part of this whole thing. That was Benedict Arnold.
Oh,
He played a major role in the British coming back. Let me read it. It says Benedict Arnold was an American military officer who served as a general during the American Revolutionary War, fighting for the American Centennial Army before defecting to British in 1780. George Washington had given him his fullest trust and placed him in command of the fortifications at West Point, New York. Arnold planned to surrender the fort to British forces, but the plot was discovered in September 1780, and he fled to the British. His nickname became a byword in the United States for treason and betrayal because he led the British army in battle against the very men whom he once commanded. See, going back to how how if a kingdom is divided against itself, how can it stand? You see, but that's once again I wanted to make sure we mention that devil because he, everyone knows about Benedict Arnold. If you don't know, you know that saying, oh, he's Benedict Arnold, But he was a man, right? He was a man that was highly influential during this whole battle, man. He was the one that gave Britain that inside skate to get the upper hand for a little while.
Right. So again, going back to Crispus Addison, we had mentioned that there are a lot of influential people that were the impetus behind the changing of a guard, and this dude led the Americans and kind of bolstered up some bravery for them to be able to even fight again. Because if you think about Britain being the world power at the time, it would have been unheard of for America, a small country in its inception, trying to fight against such a powerhouse. But he gave them. He was one of them shit talking niggas. He gave them some bravado, if you will, to want to fight against the British soldiers, man. And it started with him. So we'll stop here. We're gonna take a quick walk down to what you see here, this building here, and then we'll say a few more things, and then we'll close up. All right, shalom.
There is nothing more obligating than you to save this country. Save this country? Ain't no save.
What he does, right?
Yeah, we can a lot. I didn't tell you the truth. I didn't anticipate.
But that's the spirit. The spirit rolls like that. The spirit rolls, and
I've been up to here.
Right, that's what
Yeah. See that?